This is the revolution for trick-taking games. There are many of them. We're going to discuss a little bit of the difference, the games we play, coming up. Hi, it's Stella.
And Tarrant here.
From Meeple University. Welcome to my Tabletop Day weekly vlog that I have, talking about board games and anything else in between.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about trick-taking games. And I'm going to talk a little bit about traditional trick-taking games and then how that relates into the tranche of modern trick-taking games.
Yep.
And I'm going to do a lot of the talking here because I've played trick-taking games with normal playing cards and Stella hasn't.
Yes. So I haven't been accustomed to the trick-taking games. Tarrant would say, oh, you take the trick. Like there's a lot of jargon, a lot of terms in trick-taking games, which you understand. Oh, by the way, do you like my new t-shirts? I just told Tarrant that I've printed these t-shirts with his face on it.
Yeah. I approve of this one because I would like her to learn the rules sometimes. Give me a break.
I am sometimes. So yeah, this is a trick for Tarrant. You check the trick. There's another t-shirt that he doesn't really prefer.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, so if I think back, it might even have been the first time we met. If not, it was the second. It was at a board game meetup. And you had...
Oh yeah, Diamonds.
You had Diamonds.
Yeah,
you brought along Diamonds,
yes.
which was released a few years ago.
I have not played that.
You hadn't played it.
Yeah.
I think I had played it.
So
and
I
tried...
You were just my buddies then?
Yeah. Sorry. I tried to teach it to you, and again, it was very late at night. It was after a lot of other games, right before this meetup was closing, and it had so much jargon and so much technique that I'd built up over a long time that I really just couldn't teach it to you in that period of time.
I think you're right. I'm just not used to it, and I was like, "What is that?" So you do this. I think you didn't use that much jargon then. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of features of the game that you just pick up by playing it, and so I played a lot of 500 through university. A little bit of Up and Down the River, and I've played plenty of Hearts on the computer as well. So
it's all trick-taking games.
Yeah, so what I'll do, I'll step it right back. So this is a pack of Queen Slippers, normal playing cards. We own this, but we have never played a game together using
It looks
deck
old.
of these cards.
It looks like, how old is this card? How long have you had it for?
I'm not sure. I've seen much dirtier decks of cards than this. So, a standard trick-taking game. Each player will be dealt a hand of equal size. And then in a trick, one player chooses a card, any card from the hand, to lead, and they put that on the table.
Right. And
the suit of that card is the lead suit. Then you go clockwise around the table, and each other player has to look into their hand. If they have a card that matches the lead suit, then they must play a card that matches the lead suit, and they'll play it on top. Whether it's higher or lower, they do have to play it. And if a player's hand has no cards of that suit, then they just play something else. It doesn't really matter what it is, because after everyone has played a...
So it has to be the right suit, not the right number, though.
Yeah, the number doesn't matter. It just has to be matching the lead suit unless it's not possible. And then after everyone has played, whoever played the highest card in the lead suit wins that trick.
Now that you mention that, I might have played it already with just a normal playing card. So that's actually trick-taking, although it was probably called something else. And I grew up in Indonesia. I think in Indonesia it's called something else.
Possibly.
Yeah, okay.
Because the vast majority of card games that have been popular through history have been in some way this style of game.
Yeah.
So that's the basic of trick-taking. And the most basic game is you've got a hand and whoever takes the most tricks wins. There's a few variations. So The first is whether it's a game with a trump suit or with no trump suit.
What is a trump suit?
So the trump suit basically beats any other suit.
Right.
So if you still follow all the rules that we had before, you still have to play matching the lead suit if you can. If you can't, then you're allowed to play an offsuit. And if it's the trump suit, it will beat the lead suit. So essentially, once all the cards are played, whoever's played the highest trump wins the trick. And if no one played a trump, then whoever played the highest in the lead suit wins. So a lot of... some trick-taking games will not have a trump, some will.
Yeah.
That doesn't really flow into modern gaming very much.
Yep.
I haven't seen a lot of scenarios. I haven't actually seen a lot of scenarios with a trump in modern trick-taking games, for reasons that I'll go into shortly.
Okay.
The second distinguishing feature is solo versus partnership. So there's a lot of trick-taking games.
And fully cooperative. I heard there's one there as well, which we haven't played.
I haven't played that. I'm not actually familiar with that one.
Okay.
I'd be interested to see how that works. But your traditional trick-taking games, you've got solo, where you've got your own hand, you're responsible for your own tricks. And then you've got a partnership game, where it's played 4 players. You and your opposite player are partners, and you're winning tricks together as a team. And so that introduces some interplay where, you know, if they've played a high card, you don't want to go in and trump that if they're going to win the trick. And so that allows you collectively to win more tricks and play strategically that way. You're never allowed to... So there's very strict restrictions on table talk when you're playing that sort of a game. And players are only really allowed to communicate by the cards they play.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting when you look at that side of trick-taking games is the way that we're starting to see a few modern non-card games using that partnership technique. And Concordia Venus is the one that we've played.
I really love that.
Does that.
It's not trick-taking, though.
It's not trick-taking, but it's trick-style partnership where you and your opposite player are on a team. You're taking actions. So in Concordia Venus, you take an action. You and your opponent, you and your teammate do that same action. And so you're trying to figure out an action that's going to work strategically for both of you. Or you can just be doing actions that only help your teammate. And it ends up being a close game. Because I remember a wide spread of scores in the games we played. But they always, when you added the partner who's been sacrificing good actions to the one who's been getting the benefit, it actually comes together and all the teams were very close.
Yeah, it seems to be like that when that partnerships game. One's actually trying to push the other one. I actually recently, this is like one more thing that I talk about, not trick-taking, is I played recently Prototype, Dwellings of Eldervale, 2 versus 2. I played with Peter Vaughan, which is from Wrecking Game, at Gamma 2020. It was a really good, really intense, where one person tends to do that as well, where trying to boost the other person to get more points by sacrificing themselves for that. I really enjoy that, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's a nice feature, and I would... I definitely enjoy Concordia Venus. I look forward to playing Dwellings of Eldervale as well.
Yeah, Tarrant hasn't played.
And I think it's something that I'd like to see more of it. I think there's a lot of games you would need to adapt them, and there are tweaks to the Concordia rules to make it work in partnership mode. But I'd like to see that in certainly some of the classic games that everyone knows the rules and you're looking for a new way to play it.
Me too. Can you imagine playing Terraforming Mars, for example? Not team versus team, but partnerships game with Terraforming Mars. That'll be awesome. I think
that would be interesting.
Yeah, I'll get onto it and then just ask hey, Jacob or Stephen, can you please do this now? We'll see.
Yeah.
And one of the modern one, which is Tournament of Avalon.
Yeah. So what I'll do.
Or you want to do it in sequence from the older one?
I've got a
Okay, I get it. Okay, you do you.
So the third distinguishing feature of trick-taking games is how the game is made even. Because there's actually a very scientific way of how you play when you've got the cards. You actually don't have that many choices once a set is started, and the cards you've got really dictate what you do. In the most basic form of whist, you get dealt your 13 cards, you try to win the most tricks. You might as well be playing blackjack, because it's basically the cards you're dealt determine how well you do.
That's true.
And so trick-taking games over time, there have developed different ways of evening out the game and making it a fair
And less luck
fair
based.
contest and less driven by the card draw. Sorry. The first way that happens, I guess, people would be most familiar with it from the game of Hearts, which anyone who had a computer during the Windows 95 era has probably played Hearts.
Yep.
Modern computers, I don't know if they still have Hearts, but it was one of the basic games you played there. And you had your cards, and all you were doing was trying to avoid winning tricks that had hearts in them or the Queen of Spades.
Okay.
And so the game was no longer about having the best cards and winning the most tricks. It was about playing tactically to avoid taking tricks that had hearts or the Queen of Spades in it. It's called an evasion style of trick-taking game. And it can work the other way as well. You can be trying to win tricks that have positive point scoring cards in them. But that's sort of one class of trick-taking game. And most modern trick-taking games that I've seen really derive from that.
Okay.
And we played Gorus Maximus at Origins last year.
2019.
So that one's like that. Different cards in the tricks are worth more or fewer points. And what makes it modern, and that's where we really get the distinction from the old Queen Slipper games into the modern games, is that the cards will tend to have different point values or different powers. And so when you play a certain card, it then lets you win the trick even though it's a low number, or count it as a trump or something like that. That's really the difference between old trick-taking games and modern trick-taking games, is more chaos, more options, and therefore more strategy or more tactical play on the cards you've got. So Gorus Maximus works that way. Tournament at Camelot and Tournament at Avalon, which was the one you just alluded to there before, very much works in that way. So you've got cards in there. If you any trick you take, you're trying to avoid taking tricks altogether, but some cards are worth -5 points, some are worth -10, and some that have special powers in them are worth -25. And then there's a whole lot of other powers and catch-up cards that give you tactics that let you change the rules of the tricks.
This one plays minimum 3 players, right?
Yes, this one does.
3 to 5, is it?
3 to 6.
Sorry, 3 to 6, yeah. Age 14 plus. Yeah.
Yep. So I think most, in fact, for the ones I've seen, I think all but one of the modern trick-taking games I've seen really work on that theory. They're an evasion style of game where some of the cards also have extra powers, or some of the suits also have extra powers, and you're essentially playing to the cards you've got. And diamonds is not quite the same. So I remember you were gaining points based on the offsuits you were playing. But it essentially is the same style of thing where you're trying to score points by means of the cards you're playing and the tricks you're taking.
Okay. I can see the progression there from the old version, and in the modern games it seems to be a little bit more player friendly, less luck based, variety as well.
And they still follow those basic rules of
That's
following
correct,
suit. Now I'll say for myself, that's not my style of trick taking game. I played Hearts, but I was never a big fan of Hearts. And so, because I still found that mechanically you were kind of going through the game in a pretty predictable way. So for me, that style of game doesn't appeal, and therefore the modern trick-taking games based on that, not really my favourite styles of game.
Okay, that's fair enough. Everyone's got their favourite things. I do want to play The Crew, and I heard good things about it, so hopefully I get to do that. And you've got a couple of more games there?
Yep. So the second way, and this is a very specific way that a trick-taking game has dealt with the evenness issue. It's a very specific style of game called German Whist. And German Whist is a 2-player game played with a normal deck of playing cards. And each player is dealt 13 cards at the start of the game, so that's half the deck. And the top card of the talon's flipped face up, and you play a trick, and whoever wins that trick takes the top card into their hand. Whoever loses that trick takes the next face down card into their hand.
That's like
And then the next card is flipped face up.
Yeah.
And you go through that process until the first 13 tricks have been taken. And at that point, each player has a hand that they've essentially built by trying to win the cards that are good for them, trying not to win the cards that are bad for them when the card is flipped face up. In many ways, it's kind of the first deck builder.
Yes.
And so after those 13 tricks are done and everyone's got their hand of 13, only then do the tricks count.
Okay.
And so whoever wins the most
two,
of the second 13 tricks wins the game. And so that was a game from, I think this goes back to the 17th or 18th century.
Yeah.
And it was a popular style of whist. And it's got interesting strategy because, if it's a high card that's flipped face up, how high a card do you play to try to win that card into your hand for the end? And if you're just trying to build up on one suit, there might be a lowish card of one suit, but you really want it because once the other player's off-suited, you'll just be able to reel off tricks. So you might play high to get a low card. The other player might see that, know that you're building up that suit, and then try to counteract. So there's a fair bit of strategy. There's a fair bit of luck as well because the loser of each trick's getting a random card.
Could be good.
But there's a fair bit of strategy involved in that game. So that's the historical game. The game of Claim and Claim 2, which is Scott Alms's trick-taking game.
Meeple did the artwork.
And Meeple did the art on that. He basically takes that. He uses that mechanism, shamelessly takes it, and for good reason, because it works really well. And makes a 2-player trick-taking game out of that, using not quite exactly the same mechanic, I think, because when you win the tricks, they go into a separate hand that you then pick up after 13. So it's slightly different, but it's essentially the same style. You're building up the deck for the important half, and that counterbalances the randomness. The other bit with this game is it's not about winning the most tricks. When you finish taking the tricks in the second half, you look at all the cards you've collected, and there are 5 suits in the game. And if you have more cards than your opponent in a suit, you win that suit, and whoever wins 3 suits wins the game.
But each there's each faction has got different powers as well, which makes it like even more trickier. Get it?
Yep. Yep, so each of the suits has its own ability. They're relatively subtle abilities as well, which I quite like. It doesn't completely throw the trick-taking rulebook out. They're little things like there's a certain suit that will win a trick if it's the lowest, I think. There's a long suit that has way more cards than one of the others. There's a trick where there's one suit where I think taking that card in the first half also lets you add that to your final supplies. So you want to win that trick tricks with that card throughout the whole game rather than just the second half.
Right.
And so they're little things. They don't make the game hard to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a good kind of modern with a bit of variety and add to the already well-known games.
Yeah, so I think that's a very thoughtful modern trick-taking game.
Mm-hmm. You like that one?
I think it's... I say we haven't played it a lot because Stella doesn't have the familiarity with trick-taking games. You still probably need to have played some playing card games to really appreciate Claim. I think you need to know them well, but we have played it. Mm-hmm. We enjoy it, but yeah, I think it's a really neatly designed game. All right, and then so that's the second type of balancing out a game. The third style, and this has really historically been the most popular style of trick-taking game, is the contract style or the bidding style. And this was, 500 was my game of choice that had this mechanism. Bridge has been a very popular game that has contract. They're both partnership games. My dad used to play Solo or Boston, which is a form of whist where, again, it's a contract game. Sometimes it's partnership or sometimes it's solo. So the premise there is that you get your cards and you work out how many tricks you think you'll be able to take with those cards. And then it's often in a partnership, so you don't know what your partner has. And then there'll be a round of bidding. And you'll often start by bidding low to say what your best... essentially tell your partner what your best suit is. And then between the two of you, you've got to work out, I think I can win 7 tricks if the trumps is hearts. And my opponent sort of upbids that and says, all right, well, I think we can win 8 because I know you can win 7 and I can add to that. And it goes around this bidding until one team stops bidding, and whoever has the highest bid then has to try to meet that contract. And in a game of 10 tricks like 500, often that's going to be 8 or 9 tricks because you can see your cards, you've got a lot of trumps. You're going to be able to win a lot, but it evens the contest because now the other team knows, well, we only have to beat them in 2 or 3 tricks here, so I can pick the strategy among my cards that will win us that small number of tricks. So a lot of the strategies in the contract bidding, and there's a little bit more strategy in the playing phase because it becomes a much tighter thing. It also encourages high bidding because my handful of hearts is useless unless I've made trumps the hearts, hearts the trump.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these contract games will let you also bid that you're going to win 0 tricks, or that you can lay your cards face up on the table and still win 0 tricks with everyone knowing what you've got. So those games have always been very popular, and I always really enjoyed playing 500 at university, throughout university, building up my skills in how to bid and how to tell my partner things with bidding. I've never seen that mechanism come into a modern game.
Maybe not the games, at least not the games that you've played yet.
Yeah, certainly not in the ones I've played.
Put in the comment sections below, by the way.
If you know there's a modern version of Contract Bridge, then I'd be interested to know about it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how well it would work. I think the predictability of the standard playing cards helps make the contract bidding phase go smoothly.
Okay.
I reckon if you started adding even the subtle powers of the claim suits, it might get too chaotic. It might get tough. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Maybe that's why there aren't any modern...
Well, somebody design that, please, for Tarrant.
I'd be interested to see how it goes, but even if you designed it for me, I'd have to go back and find 4 people who've played enough contract games
your dad
to appreciate it. So
your dad is one.
Yeah.
Maybe your brother and your mum as well.
Maybe we never played partnership partnership games growing up, but I do know we do know how to play them.
Okay.
So when it all comes down to it, often I see the question, what is the best modern trick-taking game? I haven't found anything that I've enjoyed more than 500.
Okay.
Because in spite of all the ways that the modern games play, I like the bidding contract style of Trick Taker.
That's fair enough. Again, that's that's your preferred. I do like Claim when I play it, and the tournament at Avalon. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to play it at this stage. Probably later because of at the time of recording anyway, because of this self-isolation.
Yep, 3 to 6 players, which is outside our present capability. But
yeah. So yeah. So thanks so much for sharing that knowledge. Like, I didn't know you have that sort of like history from the old card games until like this modern card game. So hopefully more are coming up, and please suggest to us whatever it is that you want to suggest to us. Any trick-taking games that you like us to try. But it's becoming more and more popular these days as well. I'm obviously certainly I didn't play the older version, so I didn't know how to compare. I quite enjoyed the newer version, so maybe I should try to play the older version as well. Yeah. So thanks for watching. If you want to help us, hit the like button and subscribe to us. Hit the Meeple in the corner and hit the bell also, so you get notification of next one. So next Thursday, or every Thursday we'll do, depending what country you are. Every Thursday we'll have the floor. And I also on social media, on Instagram for board game reviews and everything else. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.